The Champions League quarterfinals are starting soon, so it's only right that I make my predictions on these amazing games. And trust me, you're gonna want to stay until the end, because I got some crazy upsets in this video. First though, let's start off with Atletico Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. And in my eyes, this is a pretty even matchup, with Atletico Madrid maybe being the slight favorites. Now Atletico aren't even in the greatest form right now. I mean, some of the recent games include getting destroyed by Athletic Bilbao in the Copa del Rey semi-final 4-0 overall, losing to Cadiz 2-0 in the league, and then losing 3-0 to Barcelona at home, even conceding to their own player on loan, João Felix again. But in the Champions League, Atletico Madrid could genuinely be cooking something special. They topped their group by 4 points, not even losing a game, and even overcame one of the dark horses favorited to win the Champions League this season and last year's finalist, Inter Milan, in the round of 16. Heading into the second leg, Atletico Madrid were down 1-0 after conceding to Marco Arnautovic late into the game. But in the second leg, Atletico Madrid came alive. They even went down 2-0 overall on aggregate, with them conceding in the 33rd minute due to Federico Di Marco, but one of Atletico Madrid's best players this season, Antoine Griezmann, clutched up 2 minutes later and brought the game within 1. Then, in one of the very last plays in the game, Memphis Depay clutches up for Atletico and scores in the 87th minute to take the game into extra time, and eventually penalties. Then, with the likes of Alexis Sanchez, Davy Klaassen, and Lautaro Martinez absolutely butchering their penalties, Atletico Madrid pulled off the ultimate upset and beat Inter 3-2 on penalties, meaning Atletico Madrid were the ones going through to the quarterfinals instead. So, even though Atletico Madrid's league form isn't the best, I mean they're literally 4th place and are only 2 points ahead of Bilbao for a Champions League spot, Atletico Madrid's Champions League form right now has to be taken seriously. And honestly, with Atletico Madrid playing prime Diego Simeone ball right now, there's a chance that they could actually make the final this year. And honestly, a Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid Champions League final rematch for the 3rd time this past decade is a possibility. But I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. So let's talk about Atletico's opponent in the quarterfinals first, Borussia Dortmund. Now Dortmund have been on fire recently in terms of the Bundesliga and the Champions League. In the German league first though, Dortmund have been grinding out some serious wins, like beating Union Berlin 2-0, Werder Bremen 2-1 despite going down to 10 men, Eintracht Frankfurt 3-1, and most recently Bayern Munich away from home at the Allianz Arena 2-0, something that they haven't done in a very long time. Plus, with Borussia Dortmund not being in the title race this season, and with them basically gifting Leverkusen the Bundesliga title, Dortmund's full focus can be on the Champions League this season, since they made the quarterfinals surprisingly. A lot of people didn't think that Borussia Dortmund could make it through the group of death, but instead they topped it, which gave Dortmund an easier opponent in the round of 16, PSV Eindhoven. Now PSV Eindhoven isn't some easy walkover. They're currently undefeated domestically and are walking to the Eredivisie title, but compared to some of the other opponents in the Champions League, this was certainly a good draw for Dortmund, and BVB took full advantage of that. They drew 1-1 away from home in the first leg, which isn't a great result, but it isn't bad either. But at home, Borussia Dortmund took care of business, and a huge reason for that is due to one of their star players, Jadon Sancho. In the 3rd minute, Sancho scores a perfectly placed shot from outside the box to give his team an early lead, and since this goal, Sancho has been cooking for Dortmund, not only in this game, but in the games after too. Regardless, PSV were certainly putting on the pressure, but thanks to a last minute mistake, Marco Reus put the game away and Dortmund won the second leg 2-0, meaning that they're through to the quarterfinals and are facing Atletico Madrid. Now like I've said, a lot of football fans on social media and on TV are saying that Atletico Madrid are the favorites to go through in this tie. And it's a valid prediction considering that Diego Simeone ball is perfect for knockout stage tournaments like the Champions League. But for some reason, I feel like something different will happen. And for that, I'm already starting off this video with an upset. And I think that Borussia Dortmund will be the ones going through. The first leg will be difficult since it's in Madrid, so I'm going for a 1-0 win for Atletico. But in the second leg, at Signal Iduna Park, I got Dortmund winning 2-0, and they'll be making the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time since 2013. I bet a lot of y'all might have not been expecting this prediction from me, but hey, I love myself an upset. Y'all should know this by now. Moving on to the next quarterfinal match, we got PSG versus FC Barcelona. But real quick before we get on with that though, please remember to subscribe to the channel. We're close to 100,000 subscribers and I would just really appreciate it, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabhuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Back to the match, let's start off by talking about PSG first. Now a lot of you neutral football fans might not be tuning in into League 1, but PSG have been absolutely cooking in their league, like they usually do. They're already 12 points ahead of second place in the league and have only lost a grand total of 1 time this campaign. Additionally, in their last few league games, PSG beat a good OGC Nice side in the French Cup quarterfinal 3-0, destroyed Montpellier 6-2 away from home, and even beat Marseille 2-0 away from home in the Le Classique. So safe to say, PSG are in hot form. And so is their star man who is rumored to leave at the end of the season, Kylian Mbappe. Although Kylian Mbappe might not be the happiest man under Luis Enrique, he's flourishing under his system. And in 38 games he's played so far at the time in recording this, he's gotten 38 goals and 8 assists, meaning that he's averaging more than 1 goal contribution per game, which is just insane by the way. There's honestly an argument to be made that Kylian Mbappe is currently the best player in the world, despite playing in the French league. And speaking about Mbappe, he's probably the biggest reason why PSG defeated Real Sociedad in the round 16. In the first leg at home, Mbappe's goal is the reason why PSG even went up in the game. And then in the second leg, Kylian Mbappe's brace is pretty much the sole reason why PSG got the 4-1 victory on aggregate, and are now through to the quarterfinals in the first place. Plus, Mbappe even bossed FC Barcelona single-handedly the last time the two sides faced in the Champions League. So I think that PSG are going into this game as the heavy favorites. But before we get on with my prediction though, let's touch on FC Barcelona a bit. Ever since Xavi's announcement that he's gonna leave the club at the end of the season, which honestly might not happen anymore, FC Barcelona have been cooking. They destroyed Getafe 4-0, love to see it, beat Mallorca 1-0 at home, Las Palmas at home, and Atletico Madrid 3-0 away from home, like I mentioned already. Not only that, a lot of their players are getting back into some serious hot form, like Gundogan for example, who is performing out of his mind as per usual, but now even the likes of Lewandowski have gotten their form back, and where one of the best strikers in the world is performing as well as he should, it'll only help Barcelona. Plus, Lamine Yamal, the 16-year-old kid, is genuinely so good, and he's showing why week in and week out. So even though Barcelona might not be winning La Liga this season, and they're definitely the outside favorites to win the Champions League, they're not a side that should be taken lightly. Plus, even when people count out Barcelona before, like in the Champions League round 16 against PSG many years ago, they came back and beat PSG 6-1, and now this game will forever be remembered as La Remontada. So Barcelona fans, even though PSG have been going absolutely crazy recently, there's still hope. So what do I think? Who is going to win this quarterfinal clash between PSG and Barcelona? Well, for the first leg, I think PSG will take care of business at home and win 2-1. But then away to Barcelona, I think that Barca will concede a last-minute equalizer for Kylian Mbappe, breaking Barcelona hearts, and PSG will go on to the semifinals of the Champions League by winning 3-2 overall. I think it could be written in the stars that Mbappe will haunt Barcelona fans, win the Champions League in his last game for PSG, and then go to Real Madrid to dominate Barcelona for a few more years. This script is just too good to end in the quarterfinals, you know what I mean? Sorry Barca fans. Moving on to the next game, we got a clash that all of us have been waiting for. It's Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. Let's start this off by talking about Arsenal. Arsenal are currently in the 3-horse Premier League title race, and they were on fire earlier in 2024, like them beating the likes of Sheffield United away from home 6-0, Burnley away 5-0, West Ham away from home 6-0, and Newcastle 4-1. Now don't get me wrong, Arsenal are still winning games recently, like beating Brentford 2-1 not that long ago, but their hot scoring form has dropped off recently. We can see this in the game against Manchester City that just happened. Man City had one of their weakest squads put out due to injury issues, like to John Stones, Kyle Walker, and Ederson, their main goalkeeper. This was the perfect time for Arsenal to go out and get a win, and potentially put them in the driver's seat to win the Premier League. But instead, Arsenal sat back and defended valiantly the entire game, which is fine. But to me, this just kind of showed a lack of mentality. I feel like when your opponent is weaker than usual, you should go out and bring the game to them. But instead, Arsenal sat back and were pretty happy with a decent 1 point. Plus, Arsenal having no European history has been playing a role, and we can see that in the round 16 game against Porto. In the first leg away from home, Arsenal somehow lost 1-0, and my prediction of Porto going through was well on its way. I mean, no proper side is going away to Porto in the Champions League and losing. I mean, look at Liverpool. Every time we played Porto in the knockout stages, we took care of business with ease. But with Arsenal, who don't have much European experience, didn't have the dog in them to take care of business. Even in the second leg, Trossard brought the game even, but it had to go all the way to penalties and a David Raya masterclass for Arsenal to go through and beat Porto in the round 16. Now I can't be too harsh on Arsenal, because at the end of the day, football is a results business, and Arsenal took care of business. But recently, Arsenal might not have the correct mentality to go out all the way and win the Champions League, and that's something I'm gonna have to take into account with my prediction. But before I say what I think will happen in this game, let's talk about Bayern Munich, the team that absolutely destroyed Arsenal in their last Champions League matchup all those years ago, 10-2. Good times. But now, Bayern Munich is kind of interesting to talk about. They've won the Champions League relatively recently and have like 6 in total, so they have some European experience and they usually go far in the Champions League, so them making the semifinals would be nothing new for Bayern Munich. But usually, Bayern would be on fire in the league and would be in some hot form. But this season, that couldn't be further from the truth. They've had some good results recently, like beating Mainz 8-1 and Darmstadt 5-2 away from home, but they've also had some pretty bad results, like losing to Bochum 3-2 and then most recently to Borussia Dortmund at home 2-0. And with these losses, Bayern are currently 13 points behind Bayer Leverkusen in the league with 7 games to go, which pretty much means that they've lost the Bundesliga title to somebody else for the first time in over a decade. Not only that, Bayern are already out of the DFB Pokal Cup, and their current manager, Thomas Tuchel, has already announced that he'll be leaving the club at the end of the season. So right now, Bayern Munich might be a bit of a mess. And even in the Champions League round 16, Bayern didn't dominate their opponent like usual, and they even lost to Lazio 1-0 in the opening game, before coming back 3-0 in the second leg to be fair. So although Bayern are Bayern, they aren't exactly performing like Bayern Munich usually does. Now I think overall this game will be a pretty close affair. It won't be anything like the 10-2 because Bayern have arguably become worse and Arsenal have become significantly better. So in fact, I think this game will be a tight affair. In the first game, I got Arsenal beating Bayern at home 1-0, but then in the second leg, I got Bayern also winning 1-0, meaning that the game will go to penalties, and I actually have Arsenal upsetting Bayern Munich on penalties, and they'll be going through winning 5-3. That's right, I got Arsenal going through to the Champions League semi-final. Now I don't think I have to make myself more clear. I do not think that Arsenal are going to win the Champions League, but I believe they have what it takes to get revenge on Bayern Munich and beat this much weaker side than in previous history. However, I wouldn't be surprised if I just jinxed Arsenal right now, and honestly, I hope I just did. Last but not least, we got the clash of two titans for the third time in a row, Real Madrid versus Manchester City. Whenever these two clubs clash, it's always super entertaining. A couple years ago, Real Madrid had that insane last minute comeback thanks to Rodrygo, and this comeback helped Real Madrid win the Champions League that season. Then a year later, Man City got their revenge and destroyed Madrid in the second leg 4-0 to make the final and win the Champions League. And now we have this game for the third time in a row, and whoever wins this tie, in my opinion, has the greatest chance of going on to win the Champions League this campaign. I can't wait. But before I get on with my prediction, let's talk about Real Madrid first. Right now, Real Madrid are kind of a mixed bag. They've had decent results, like beating Celta Vigo 4-0 and Osasuna 4-2 recently, but they've also not been in the brightest form, with them drawing to the likes of Rayo Vallecano 1-1 and Valencia 2-2 recently. Even in the Champions League round 16 clash against RB Leipzig, a team that Real Madrid has dominated before in the UCL, they kind of struggled. Yes, Real Madrid beat them away from home 1-0, but at the Bernabeu, thanks to some favorable refereeing decisions, Real Madrid drew to RB Leipzig 1-1. But regardless, they did make it through to the quarterfinals. And regardless of Real Madrid's iffy performances in the Champions League so far, it's Real Madrid, the most successful club in the competition. And with them having plenty of winning experience in this tournament, I'm sure they can overcome this slight cause to worry. One thing that Real Madrid has to be careful about though is yellow cards. Because if Jude Bellingham, their best player this season, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, or Vinicius gets a yellow card, they will miss that second leg away to Man City. And if that happens, Real Madrid could be cooked. But let's talk about Man City now. Like I previously mentioned, they're currently in a 3-horse Premier League title race, and they're also still in the FA Cup. So basically, Man City are currently competing in 3 different competitions, and that could take a toll on them. But they literally won the treble last year, so who says they can't do it again? Well, history does, because to my knowledge, no club has ever won the treble back to back. But who knows what Manchester City can accomplish. Now, Man City also got an extremely favorable matchup in the round 16, with them getting FC Copenhagen, a club they dominated 6-2 on aggregate. So there's no point in really looking into that game too much. Something we can look into though is Phil Foden, who this season has been Man City's best player, and has been carrying City into some great results, while Haaland on the other hand has been showing that he is human, with him not playing as well as he's done last season. But it's Manchester City. You could never sleep on a side as talented as them, especially with Pep Guardiola coaching the team. So who do I got winning this quarterfinal clash? Real Madrid or Manchester City? Well, for the first leg, I got Real Madrid beating Man City at home 2-0, and in the second leg, I got Man City beating Real Madrid 2-1. But that means Real Madrid will beat Manchester City 3-2 on aggregate and make the semifinals. I just don't see Real Madrid going out in the Champions League to the same team 2 years in a row. I have too much respect for Real Madrid to say something like that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Please let me know your own Champions League quarterfinal predictions in the comments down below. And now, if you enjoyed this one, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And please be sure to follow my Twitter and my Instagram. The links are down in the description. And last but not least, if you want to learn more about a World Cup underdog story you might have forgotten about, Costa Rica in 2014, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.